Let's get popping, dude. So yeah, um, kind of crazy news story. I'll give you the hot and steady of it. A man arrested over arson attacks after fire at Keir Starmer's house. So basically, a 21-year-old dude, was arrested like a week ago. Keir Starmer's car blew up. I'm talking not like IRA star like style, like he was in the car and it blew up like some Goodfellas shit. No, I mean like it just they set it on fire in the middle of the street, like at his old address. I don't know why the car was there. I have no idea how a random person would know that that car belongs to the prime minister, or that it would be parked there, or that this old residence was his. I know residences are probably more not public knowledge but publicly accessible knowledge, but a car, a driver's license plate, I don't know. That seems sus to me. But I'll digress from the conspiracy theory. We're 10 seconds into this. What I will say is that on Monday they firebombed one house. On Tuesday morning they firebombed another house. These are both addresses linked to Keir Starmer, who is the acting Prime Minister of the UK. He's part of the Labour Party. He was elected not too long ago and is super unpopular. So, from both sides, his party doesn't like him for the most part, especially not now. And the Reform UK party, which is led by Nigel Farage, is now polling as the most popular party by a large, large margin. So, really, just an unpopular sitting duck prime minister, just like the last two. So, what are you gonna do? Yeah, so he gets his property firebombed. Don't know if there's any other useful information in this article. The property is being rented out. That's a bit of a fucking cadoozle, because imagine you are just renting a flat in this house and your front door catches on fire. I'd be a little pissed, dog. I'd be a little miffed. And then I go to my neighbor and his door also catches on fire, so I don't even have a good story to tell. We're both just a little miffed at that. So, I mean, what are you gonna do? They caught these random people's door on fire. I mean, I wonder how many people were living in there. It's crazy. Nobody was hurt though. That's important to say. Um, the opposition leader, Kimi Badenoch, something, has condemned this suspected arson attacks. That's good. We're not at the point in the UK where we're throwing firebombs at each other yet. Well, I mean, it looks like we are, but we're not condoning it. We're not condoning it yet. The Conservative leader said, "This is a shocking incident. My thoughts are with the Prime Minister and his family. No one should face these sorts of threats, let alone people in public service. It's an attack on our democracy and must never be tolerated. It's absolutely wrong and disgraceful for any individual to take the kind of action that we saw against the Prime Minister's home," they said. These are all standard things. You're going to say one thing that you should note is Kimi Badenoch is Nigerian. And if you would know, the last Conservative leader was from India, or at least Indian, and he was the Prime Minister. So the Conservative Party is not even offering up a British person to run. So that's just neither here nor there. That's just interesting to note. But Starmer did give a speech recently where he was accused of echoing far right with Island of Strangers speech. So Keir Starmer is now Sir Oswald Mosley. He is now Enoch Powell. Yeah, nothing else to say, dude. He's basically nuanced Hitler. Mr. Labour Party leftist open borders guy is now being compared to the British Hitlers, apparently. That's interesting. Well, I'm not even sure if I could say that. Anyways, he gave a speech and they're calling it the Island of Strangers speech, which is funny. Depending on how they feel about you is what they're going to call your speech, I guess. I don't know if you name your own speech. Like if you go to the press and say, "Hey, I'm about to drop this speech. Here's the name of it. Here you go." Probably not. Probably like anything the media does, they take some words out of context, and now your whole message is tied to those words that you used out of context. The rhetoric was likened by some critics to the language of Enoch Powell. The prime minister was accused of pandering to the populist right by insisting he intended to take back control of our borders and in a squalid chapter of rising inward migration. So the interesting thing here is, of course he's pandering to the populist right. If you look at the opinion polls, he doesn't have an electorate. Nobody is voting for him. The only people that are interested in voting are the populist right. Reform Party has like double the amounts of votes that his party does. He's widely unpopular. I mean, if they did an election right now, Nigel Farage and his party would have like more seats than they have representatives. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. They would have like 460 seats out of 650. I mean, the whole government would be Reform UK. That's how unpopular he is. So of course he's going to pander to the people that are about to evict him in a couple of years. He's trying to let off some steam from the opposition. That's all he's doing. Because if you let people sit there and steam and build up discontentment for you for a couple of years, it doesn't matter what you do in that time in between. They're going to vote against you because you got elected as default. I mean, Keir Starmer is the most lame duck candidate to ever exist. That's probably not true because the UK is fresh off a prime minister that was prime minister for like 30 days. So I'll give him that. But he wasn't elected with some kind of mandate. He was elected by default because the Conservative Party failed so hard in the previous government. So now the UK electorate have rallied behind Reform UK, and he's in a bit of conundrum here. I mean, he is a politician, so he is sold to the highest bidder, and right now the highest bidder are the people that are going to evict him from his homes, because he is a government official that has multiple $1 million homes. Anyways, some politicians claimed, this is what the article said, that his words had echoed Enoch Powell's notorious Rivers of Blood speech, which he imagined a future multicultural Britain where the white population found themselves made strangers in their own country. This is what Enoch Powell said. 1968. Let me do a quick search. In 1951, 99.9%, and then 99.4%, so about 99%. When he gave this speech. Let's look up modern day. 81. That's a substantial drop. 60 years later. Seems pretty not omniscient, but prescient. I'm sure, I mean, you have to look back, like, Ebola was saying this same thing about the U.S. in 1924 or something? 1945. 1945. So Ebola wrote an essay in 1945 called American Civilization. It showed the United States as the final stage of European decline. So, I mean, these people, there have been some smart men in the past that can see the writing on the wall well before anyone else can see it. And actually, while we're on this topic, I was recently watching a video about the current situation in South Africa, and I have wrongly believed in the past that eventually we'll get to a point where people will understand the gravity of the situation that they are putting Europe, the US, Western countries into. And I am sorely mistaken because there are still people in South Africa that do not realize the dire situation that they are in. I mean, we're talking genocide levels of people around you being murdered, and you still think that the people leaving are crazy. I mean, the brain rot, the brainwashing knows no bounds. So let's move on. I'll digress from this. Um, when asked to respond to accusations that he adopted Powell's rhetoric, Starmer told The Guardian, migrants make massive contribution to the UK, and I would never denigrate that. Of course, he would say that because he is a socialist, self-proclaimed socialist, globalist, leftist. I mean, these are not buzzwords. These are self-proclaimed ideologies that he has. And he's even saying that the current immigration system in the UK is broken. In words that could further enrage his critics, Starmer insisted that new migrants must learn the language and integrate. Pretty much anything a reasonable person would say. If you pulled the average person from 10 years ago or from 15 years ago or 20 years ago, every single one of them would say, oh yeah, I don't have a problem with immigration as long as they can speak the language and, they integrate and they don't stab me or, they don't commit crime. This is just what normal people think. If you disagree with that immigrants should learn the language and integrate, I mean, dude, you're just so far off base. You're so far off what the average person would find acceptable. And there's some serious, you need to sit down some serious time for self-reflection. He said, let me put it this way, nations depend on rules, fair rules. Sometimes they are written down, often they are not. But either way, they give shape to our values, guide us towards our rights, of course, but also our responsibilities, the obligations we owe to each other. I mean, these are just basic things, man. Like, citizenship comes with responsibilities and obligations. Every day you should be trying to make your community better, your surroundings better, which a lot of people from third world countries just don't do. I mean, if you look at the countries that they're coming from, they obviously didn't try to make it better. You want to take South Africa again, for example, even the government doesn't do basic fundamental infrastructure reparation. It's led to private parties to fix infrastructure in South Africa. I can let you guess who runs those private parties. I won't say. But it seems to be a Western cultural trend that isn't upheld elsewhere. When they immigrate here, they don't integrate to that standard. So Zach Polanski, who is running to be the next Green Party leader, suggested that Starmer was deliberately echoing Powell's phraseology in a post on Blue Sky, which is just everyone who left Twitter as soon as Elon put in free speech. They went to Blue Sky, apparently. I figured that out. Anyways, he wrote, not even subtle, when he included quotes from Powell's speech and Keir Starmer's speech. So I'm going to ignore this because everyone ignores the Green Party. They have no votes. This guy isn't even the leader of the Green Party. He's just running to be the leader. The Green Party will never, has not ever had any effect on any country's politics. Ever. And it never will. It's a complete joke of a movement. They're pissing into the wind and they're completely missing. They're off key. They can't read the room. They don't understand what people are actually upset about. So I'm just going to ignore them. Labor MPs questioned whether Starmer's policies were fueling racism. That's cool. I mean, yeah, you just have a bunch of people on his own side criticizing him, of course, because if you're in Labor Party in 2025, you believe in open borders. I'm not even talking shit. You believe in open borders. You believe in that people should be able to immigrate to the UK without integrating. You think that no human is illegal. You think all this nonsense. You think everybody is born a blank slate and that anybody can be anything. Anyone who believes that nonsense after third grade should be put in an alternative school because they need special care. It's just nonsense. It shouldn't even be regarded as a real idea. Starmer said that the current immigration system encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people. That's obvious. I mean, it's amazing coming from Keir Starmer, but this is true. Rain Newton Smith, the of the Confederation of British Industry, she is the chief executive. She said the reality for businesses is that it is more expensive and difficult to fill a vacancy with immigration than if they could hire locally or trained workers. When considered alongside the large fees and accompanying charges, foreign workers are simply not the easy or cheap alternative. She's right in a sense. I'm going to tell you why she's wrong. I'm going to tell you why she's entirely wrong. The UK does not require work visa applicants, people who receive work visas, to have a degree. This is not the case in almost every other developed country. I mean, if you go to anywhere in the EU, if you go to Russia, if you go to the US, you have to have at least a degree to be considered a skilled worker. So, I mean, in the US, you can get a work visa for seasonal labor, for like working on a farm or something, but that's temporary. We're talking about, this is specifically in relation to permanent residency. And Keir Starmer said we need to make degrees a requirement for skilled labor. In this case, where if you were to be a business and you're like, hey, we need to bring over skilled labor, we need to relocate them, we need to pay them a lower wage because that's how you pay foreigners, it may end up being around the same price as hiring a local. But when you have a systematic case of people being brought in by NGOs or by the government, by certain money laundering schemes that just bring in these people, and you create this kind of underclass of people from a third world country that are from poor countries. They don't have a lot of money. They come to the UK looking for opportunity. They come from a country that has an average IQ of 2 standard deviations below the mean. You're going to create an underclass. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm not saying that to be racist. I'm saying that because that's what you're doing. And the utility of a system is what it does. The purpose of a system is what it does. And if your system brings in poor people with low IQ, which creates an underclass, the purpose of your immigration system is to bring in an underclass that creates a negative wage pressure. And that's what they're doing. So when you have this underclass of unskilled labor, or maybe potentially slightly skilled labor, that is driving the wages down, you could pick from them. You don't even have to pay to bring them in as a company, because guess what? The government and the NGOs, well, the government paid the NGOs to bring in these people, to create this underclass. So this is just a lie. She's wrong. She's being disingenuous. Or disingenuous, whatever. The critics have claimed that the changes are part of Starmer's attempts to combat the rise of Nigel Farage's Reform UK party, which made significant gains in this month's local elections. That's true. I mean, this is obviously true. They see that the Reform Party is performing so much better than every other party. They have to at least give the people what they're voting for, somewhat, or else it's going to be a complete nightmare for them. They're going to include plans to raise foreign worker skill requirements to degree level, just like I mentioned, and they're going to raise the standards of English language required for all types of visa, including dependents, which is good, and increase the time it takes to gain citizenship from 5 years to as many as 10, which is good. Migrants who demonstrate a contribution to the economy and society through their tax returns. Notice that they have contribution in quotations here. The Guardian cannot even admit that contribution to the economy or society is an objective reality. They want to sit here and say that it's subjective, that, contribution, so-called contribution. Yes, some people contribute to society and some people denigrate society. I mean, that's just how it is. Or if they work for the NHS or other public services, or who have engineering jobs, or who do outstanding voluntary service, will be entitled to fast track for permanent residency. This is bad because you don't want migrants who barely speak English in emergency services. I've already seen countless videos of people in the UK being arrested by cops that don't know how to speak English. Um, if they don't know how to speak English, how do they know the laws? How do they know the culture? It doesn't make any sense. If you want your grandma arrested for a Facebook post, at least have the person arresting her speak English. Yeah, Starmer said our strategy is about delivering where the previous government failed year after year. It's about rolling up our sleeves and fixing the broken immigration system to bring control to our borders, ending the open border experiment under the last government. I mean, he's right. The previous government, led by Rishi Sunak, complete failure on the border. You want to know why? Because Rishi Sunak. I mean, the Conservative Party, even the opposition leader today for the Conservatives is from Nigeria. I mean, how are you going to be tight on the border when your last three leaders have represented less than 2% of the population of the UK? It doesn't make any sense. You're not representing the electorate when you do that. You are pandering to a very small group of people, and you're trying to hide your beliefs behind minorities. And it's weak. It's soft. You know, Nigel Farage, for all his faults, for plenty of his faults, has never hidden behind a minority with his views. He tells you what his views are. He's very upfront about it, and he's very successful with it because they are popular views. People like a popular candidate who isn't afraid to speak the truth in the face of adversity. And frankly, Farage could get arrested for his views in the UK. They have a complete lack of freedom of speech. You could look like just like in Germany, where the AfD is trying to get banned by unelected bureaucrats. It's a sketchy situation. The AfD, much like Reform Party, takes over on popular votes, and they look to ban them. That's the situation we're in, man. Crazy story. Houses get firebombed. Keir Starmer completely turns on his head, turns on his party. It'll be crazy to see how this turns out.